Okay, hello everyone. I think we're going to get started. So, hi, my name's Miranda. I'm an admissions and recruitment officer here at King's. You'll hear a bit more about me in a few slides, but I'd just like to welcome you all to our virtual open house here today. Wherever you're joining us from across Canada, across the US, or further, we're really happy to have you joining us here today. So first, I'd like to welcome you to Mi'kma'ki. The University of King's College is situated on the unceded Mi'kmaq territory. We're subject here to the peace and friendship treaties that are the basis for all peaceful coexistence and good relations amongst all who live in Mi'kma'ki. We also recognize the history, contributions, and legacies of the African Nova Scotian people who've been here for over 400 years. I'd also like to welcome you. I'm currently in the city Halifax, where the University of King's College is actually located. Halifax's name in Mi'kmaq is Jipuktuk, which means Great Harbor. And Halifax is truly a great harbor. Halifax is a really lovely place to live, and we spend a lot of time kind of working with Indigenous people within Mi'kma'ki to build our relationships with them. And when you're kind of visiting universities and looking at the ways that different universities are embracing reconciliation, I'd like you to consider the work that they're doing at their universities as well and how they're actually showing that reconciliation work. So one thing that we're really excited about at King's is some journalism initiatives that we have both for three Mi'kmaq students a year and for three African Nova Scotian students a year to diverse media and respond to those calls to action. So, hi, I'm your host. My name is Miranda Dagley. My pronouns are they, she. I'm an admissions and recruitment officer at the University of King's College. This is some of my contact information. If you'd like to get in contact with me, feel free to take a picture. I'm also fully, kind of available on the King's website to find me as well. I'm a recent King's grad, so I have a Bachelor of Arts in Gendered Women's Studies with a minor in history. And I also did the foundation year program myself. So happy to answer any questions about being a King's student. But we're also joined with three lovely King's students who will be seated on our Q&A panel, which will be happening later in the virtual open house. So have a bit of an agenda for us today. I'll go over our academic programs. So that includes foundation year and all of our bachelor's degrees. So this is a virtual open house that's targeted at undergraduate students as well. So if you're thinking about kind of our master's programs or a professional degree, the one-year Bachelor of Journalism, this kind of webinar might not have that much information for you, but definitely happy to answer questions about that as well. This will just be targeted at undergraduate students. We'll also talk about our relationship between the University of King's College and Dalhousie, or DAL, our next door neighbors. I'll discuss our life at King's, what kind of being a student looks like, residence, that kind of stuff. We'll talk about admissions and scholarships, and then we'll finish our day here with a Q&A with our student panelists. So, welcome to King's. King's is a really small institution situated in Halifax. And from this picture that you're seeing in front of you right now, you can see all of King's. So we have our main building kind of in the front there, and also behind me, this is our Arts and Administration, our A&A building. On either sides, kind of, parallel to the quad here, we have our residence buildings, our gym. Situated at the very bottom of the screen is our library. So kind of all that you see when you come to King's from the quad is all of what King's is. I also have here for some of our people who are from further away. Halifax is the one with the big star there in Nova Scotia. Our largest, kind of closest American city is Boston. They're about a 1.5 hour flight away. Toronto is anywhere from 2 to 2.5 hours of a flight away, and Vancouver is somewhere from 4 to 5 hours away. So just to give you an idea of where we're located in North America. So, welcome to Halifax in Nova Scotia. Halifax is a great city to live in. I'm a bit biased because I've lived here for a few years now, but I'm from Nova Scotia myself. I'm from about an hour and a half south of Halifax, and I've always enjoyed coming up to the city, which, is the only really large city in Nova Scotia, to kind of take part in the really excellent communities that are built here, from theater and culture and music to some excellent restaurants in our downtown core. King's is located about a 10 10-minute walk from the downtown core. And our transit system is really great at getting students around within the city as well. The city itself has a bunch of, post-secondary institutions. So there's about 34,000 university students who live in Halifax at any given time in the year. So, to the reason of why you're all here today is choosing why Kings or asking the question, why Kings? Here's some quick just snapshots of why someone might choose Kings, including our close-knit and supportive student community. Like I've mentioned, there's about 1,000 students at Kings. So that small student body and, a really great student to faculty ratio because of that, you get that really good hands-on support and close-knit kind of experience. When you're walking across Kings campus, you will see people that you know. 85% of first-year students at King's receive some type of financial support. That's anything from automatic entrance awards, which are assessed at the time of application to King's, our major awards, bursaries, anything along that kind of line. 95% of our alumni would choose King's again, and I will guarantee for you as a King's alum that I would also choose King's again. So 100% at least in this webinar. And our graduates are all over the place, excelling in things like journalism, law, science, medicine, arts. I always like to kind of bring in my friend group to this. A bunch of us went to King's, and they are being teachers and environmental policy makers and librarians. So we're kind of all over the place now that we've graduated. So, King's offers 4 different degree types here for undergraduate programs. We have a Bachelor of Arts, Bachelor of Science, Bachelor of Music, and a Bachelor of Journalism honors program. All 4 of these programs have the option to start with the foundation year program. And our foundation year program is really unique to King's. It's the only thing like it really in Atlantic Canada. And foundation year program is truly the way we like to describe it is it's a first year odyssey into the history of deep thinking and ideas. It is really excellent if you're a student who's interested in your English class, your philosophy class, politics, and maybe you're also interested in science and art and how all of those things kind of integrate together over time. We'll study anywhere from the ancient world to the contemporary, and it's kind of all over the place. But the interdisciplinary nature of the program is what makes it really interesting. Students in foundation year program, depending on if you're in arts, music, journalism, or science, will take the course anywhere from 4 days a week, so every day of the weekday except Tuesday, or only Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. That's for science students. They'll start their day with a 2-hour lecture in the morning, and then in the afternoon, they split into small, discussion groups. We call these tutorials, and they're led by tutors in our faculty, and they're capped at 15 students per tutorial. So with that, you won't have to worry about, large class sizes in that kind of aspect. This program really builds strong writing and communication skills. So in this program, you are doing regularly an essay every 2 weeks, an oral exam at the end of each semester, and in your tutorials, you are building those communication skills that kind of support you in writing those essays and doing those oral exams at the end of each semester. Foundation year is also really excellent for students who are interested in taking a law program after their, bachelor's degree. Students who complete the foundation year are provisionally pre-admitted to the University of Calgary's Faculty of Law. And we're really lucky that last year, 100% of our students who applied to this program were accepted into that program in 2025. So, for an example, foundation year students read a whole bunch of stuff in their first year. We've split it into 6 sections to make it a little bit easier to kind of understand where the timeline starts. So foundation year is a chronological program, and we start in the ancient world and move our way to the contemporary. So on the screen in front of you, you've got the 6 different sections and their titles: the ancient world, the Middle Ages, Renaissance and Reformation, the Age of Reason, the age of, or era of revolutions, and the contemporary world. These are just a taste of what students will be learning in foundation year. And you'll also notice that these are all primary texts from their period. Students in foundation year don't learn from textbooks or from secondary sources beyond the original writer. These might be secondary texts in their own kind of way, but they were written in the time period that you are studying. So the Epic of Gilgamesh is the first text that every foundation year student has ever read, and we kind of move forward through time and end with, something a bit more modern, like the final report from the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. And these texts all create a interdisciplinary way of learning about the past. I often like to kind of describe it as a kind of case study in humanity from the ancient world to where we are today. So, how does foundation year really work in the grand scheme of things for a degree? So, for foundation year, if you're in arts, journalism, music, foundation year kind of, if you think about your full first year as like 5 courses that you have to take. And usually in each semester, you'll be taking 5 courses, regardless of what university you're at or if you're taking foundation year or not. Foundation year kind of bundles for arts, journalism, and music students, bundles 4 of those together. And it serves as like one mega course for your full year. So you do that in each semester, and you'll have one elective next to arts, journalism, and music in each semester. In journalism, that will be our Foundations of Journalism course. In arts, that can be kind of anything. And in music, that will usually be some type of applied study, whether that's an instrument or vocals, if you're going into one of those. For science, since they're only doing foundation year 3 days a week instead of 4, they bundle 3 of their courses together and call that foundation year. With those 2 electives that they have remaining, they'll take a math and a science each semester. So that allows students to kind of work seamlessly to begin their second year on pace with students who might have taken 5 classes in each semester. So with that, I mean, students after foundation year, because of our partnership with Dalhousie University, they typically move from King's kind of, foundation year based learning, and they start taking programs or courses in their upper years at Dalhousie. If you're a student in journalism, journalism is taught primarily and solely on King's campus. So you won't necessarily experience that move, but a lot of our second year students kind of become integrated equally with Dalhousie's community, equally as much as they would be on King's campus. So I thought I'd like to show you some ways that you can combine and customize your degree at King's and Dalhousie. Any of the programs that are blue and have a K next to them, those ones are programs that are taught on King's campus. This is also not an exhaustive list of everything that King's students can access between King's and Dalhousie. This is just a kind of, great screen or a great kind of peek into what King's students have to offer between Dalhousie and King's. Yeah. So for King's and Dalhousie, I also like to describe this as like a 2-for-1 deal when it comes to university. So King's students and Dal students together, it's 2 individual institutions, but you're granted 1 degree when they come together. With that, there's over 350 program combinations to explore, and King's and Dalhousie share in their almost entirety the Faculty of Science and Faculty of Arts and Social Sciences. This really allows King's students to have the opportunity to start their degree in a small community-based environment and move into one of those institutions or kind of take programs across both institutions that allow students to experience, expansive support, research opportunities, academic resources of, one of Canada's leading research universities in Dalhousie as a member of the U15, and having some really great faculty members with that. This also applies to student support. So Dalhousie's health and wellness, doctors, nurses, social workers, all that sort of stuff, that's all hosted on Dalhousie's campus, but King's students have full access to that as well. Same thing applies to club sports and the Dalplex, which is their large kind of gym on their campus. Lots of sharing between the both institutions. So we'll get into some programs here. Journalism at King's is very unique. We're the only school of journalism in Atlantic Canada. We're the only journalism degree in Atlantic Canada, so the only one that's offering a Bachelor of Journalism in some capacity. For undergraduate students, that tends to be the Bachelor of Journalism honors. In this program, we're entirely, media focused across platforms. So print, audio, and digital. We have excellent faculty members who typically are still working journalists in their own right. And when you are a journalism student at King's, you walk onto campus and immediately become a journalist. One of your first assignments in our Foundations of Journalism course will be to go out and interview someone. And then you come back to that and can kind of realize has the process of how you've interviewed changed over time. We have an emphasis on ethics, law, indigenous reporting, and social justice. And usually our journalism students will begin with that foundation year program to kind of explore journalism and its role within modern society as well. Many of our journalism students go on to combine their degrees with something. Many of our journalism students will get a minor in a program as well. And we encourage you also you can go online and we have a website for our student journalists on campus. It's called Signal HFX. It's where you can see some of the work that our students have done. So any of our students who are currently in the journalism program have opportunities to publish that work. And all of our journalism students also complete their degree with a month-long internship at the end of the program. So hands-on work experience and lots of connections with journalism in Atlantic Canada and across Canada from our journalism faculty and the journalism school in general. For arts and humanities at King's, I always like to say that King's is one of the places where you can explore a little bit of everything. So building an interdisciplinary degree across dozens of fields, I was lucky enough during my degree to take courses in over 20 different departments and still graduate with a major and minor. So there's definitely ways where you can kind of blend a little bit of everything. Beginning with that foundation year program, or FIP as we like to call it, allows you to explore arts and humanities throughout history. We also have some really unique certificates like medical humanities, art history, and some in sciences as well that I'll bring up, like science or sustainable communication, science communication, lots of good stuff. And there's absolutely co-op and experiential learning options available. We have lots of different opportunities for our students in arts and humanities to kind of build on those skills that they learn in the arts and humanities that are really helpful and applicable to the workforce nowadays, like critical thinking, communication skills, lots of those things that we really need these days. So, science at King's. Foundation year program can be blended with science courses at Dalhousie as well. Programs in biology, neuroscience, marine bio, physics, the whole 9 yards. Starting science with foundation year really, diversifies the way that a student's science degree begins, makes them really strong science communicators, and building on the ways that they can then communicate the sciences to people who don't necessarily know science as well as others. They also, science students at King's who are not taking the foundation year program have the option to do Dalhousie's integrated science program, which is another research intensive first year program, really excellent, that we share with Dal as well. For music at King's, students can begin with foundation year to explore music in its cultural and historical context. They have concentrations in the music department with performance, composition, popular musics, and the King's Chapel has a really excellent chapel choir and King's Chorus and other student-led groups that can allow students who are interested in building on their choral skills to kind of keep those up as well. So I've accidentally skipped a slide. Going back one. Our honors programs are upper year programs at King's. These can be combined with subjects at Dalhousie for some well-rounded honors programs. Our History of Science and Technology, Contemporary Studies, and Early Modern Studies programs allow students to blend things like literature, art, politics, philosophy together to kind of broach either a time period or, in the case of History of Science and Technology, to explore the ways that, literature, philosophy, and politics influence the development of science into how we know it today. These honor programs also host our really excellent summer field courses in Berlin, Germany, and Florence. And if you have interests in our Berlin course in particular, one of our Q&A panelists has taken the Berlin course and loves to chat about it too. For King's Experiential Learning Program, it's named KELP, which is an acronym for the Experiential Learning Program, but being an Eastern Coast school, KELP is a bit of a silly name that we love to use. This allows for on and off campus opportunities, summer internships, entrepreneurial skills. You'll be developing those skills through your any degree that you're taking at King's. And we have some non-credit, but still King's courses that will allow you to kind of build on those skills through your degree as well. And if you're joining us and maybe you're not yet in grade 12, but you're in grade 10 or 11 and you're thinking about how King's might really be the place for you, we have a Humanities for Young People program, which is for students aged 15 to 17, where you basically get a taste of foundation year over a week in July. I like to call it your King's Foundation Year test run. But you live in on our residence, you eat in our dining halls, you experience lectures that are very similar to Foundation Year program. You go to tutorials within that program as well. And another one of our Q&A members is a Humanities for Young People alum who's currently in Foundation Year. Kings is also home to the Blue Devils. The Blue Devils are the name of our sports teams. We have varsity teams in basketball, rugby, soccer, volleyball, and badminton. We have access to Kings and the Dalhousie fitness facilities, and there's some really excellent scholarships available for varsity athletes. We've been really good at winning the last few years. Both of our badminton teams, which are co-ed, and our women's volleyball have been kind of at the top of the charts, and our soccer this year has been excellent. As for student life, as you can imagine at most universities, they've got lots of societies and clubs. We also have many societies and clubs that are excellent. Debate to Dungeons and Dragons, but anything in between that you can imagine. We have a black box theater on campus for our King's Theatrical Society. If you're someone interested in theater, there is no better place to be than in Halifax, whether that's at Dalhousie or at King's. And the thing with being a King's student is you can equally join Dalhousie clubs and societies. So if there's something that isn't necessarily hosted on King's campus that you're interested in at Dalhousie, you're able to kind of do both of those. At King's, we also have great support services for academics, health, accessibility, wellness, the whole 9 yards. If you can name a need, we have someone for it. Lots of support on campus. As for residents and community, if you are a student who is applying this year, and you get accepted to King's and decide you are coming, if you apply for residence by April 1st and are, coming from high school into a first year of a bachelor's degree, you'll be guaranteed a spot in residence. This spot in residence is guaranteed, but the room type isn't guaranteed. If you'd like to get the room type that you're looking for, I always encourage you to apply early as well. And for some King's traditions. King's has a lot of traditions, mostly because we've started as kind of an older school and have kind of developed these over time. King's was established in 1789, so the development from, over those few hundred years can really, really do a number. King students will do Classics in the Quad, which can be seen on the far left here. That's a play put on by the King's Theatrical Society at the beginning of the school year each year. The next photo at the top of that, kind of second column, but the first row, that's matriculation. And below that is our insenia, which is our graduation at the end. We also have things like Queering the Quad, where lots of our LGBTQIA plus student supports will be hosted in the quad at King's, and formal meal where all of our students get together and share a fancy meal in our dining hall. Moving on to some of what you might be a little bit more interested in, are admissions requirements. So our admissions requirements are on the screen here. They vary by program. So a Bachelor of Arts, we're looking for academic grade 12 English, 4 additional subjects. If you're looking to be in foundation year in a Bachelor of Arts or in a Bachelor of Music, that's going to have a bit higher of a minimum overall average. For a Bachelor of Science, that's the only program that we're looking for pre-calculus, but that's kind of where you see that difference there. Most of the time we'll be looking for grade 12 English, 4 additional subjects. And if you're in science, add on that pre-calculus and 3 additional subjects. And if you have any questions about this, you can get in contact with us directly as well. Like I mentioned earlier, 85% of our first year students receive financial support from King's. the majority of students at King's will receive some type of general entrance scholarship. General entrance scholarships are based on your admissions average. You do not need to apply for a general entrance award. When you submit your application to King's and we're assessing your application for admission, we will also be assessing your application for entrance awards as well. So those begin at for a student with an 80% average in those five courses that we deem acceptable for admission. That starts at $1,000 and then they increase to $5,000 for our students with super high averages. On the right side of the screen here, I also have a list of our major awards. These awards are primarily, I will say, for Canadians and Atlantic Canadians. Some have some specific requirements for students to meet before they are eligible to apply. And the application for these awards is built in within our application as well. So when you're going to apply online, that's when you would kind of see that application and check off which ones you'd like to apply for. So this is the last slide of my presentation. Your next steps of what you might do after this presentation. I encourage you to learn more from exploring our website for programs and student stories. If you haven't yet submitted your application, please do so by March 1st. March 1st is the last day to be considered for those general entrance awards and major entrance awards. And if you have already submitted an application and have received a word of welcome from us, congratulations. If you accept your deposit, accept your admissions offer and pay your deposit by January 31st, not only will you be kind of entered into a draw to win your residence room, you'll also be offered early registration for courses. Typically, that happens a few weeks before the rest of students are allowed to apply as well. So just to keep that in mind. And if you're not quite ready yet and you're thinking about it, apply by March 1st. And then if you're planning to live in residence, applying by April 1st is your way to get a guaranteed spot on campus. Yeah. So I encourage you, if you have any questions from what I've said so far, you can submit those using the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. That way we can see what has been kind of put into the system. And we can get an idea kind of what questions you might want to be looking for. And then beyond that, I'll ask my student panelists if you want to put your cameras on. I'll stop sharing my screen here and give you guys the floor, basically. If I can just stop sharing. Okay. Hello, panelists. Feel free to unmute yourselves. I'm just going to make my screen set up a little bit more. Here we go. And I believe Michaela has just joined us as well. So we have four panelists. Hello, Michaela.
Hi.
Okay. So, panelists, if each of you would like to introduce yourself, I'll call on you, ask for your name, your pronouns, what degree program you're in. I'm just going to call out each one of you individually to kind of keep it in order so you don't talk over one another. So yeah, name, pronouns, what program you're in, and where you're from. So we'll start with Chow.
Hi, so my name is Charles Sylvester. I'm in first year foundation year program for the arts, and my pronouns are he, him.
Beautiful. Okay, on to Sam.
Hi, my name is Sam. I'm from Toronto. My pronouns are he, him, and I am a double major in media studies and international development, and I did the foundation year program last year.
Excellent. Okay, on to you, Ryan.
Hi, I'm Ryan Ho. I'm a second year here at King's. I also did the foundation year program. I'm from Calgary, Alberta, and I am currently doing a Bachelor of Arts in History.
Okay, and Michaela.
Hi, I'm Michaela. I'm from Ontario. I'm in the foundation year program as well, doing journalism, and my pronouns are she, her.
Okay. So, first question that I see here, I'm just going to click answer live. First question is kind of not for the students. This one's a bit more for me. From Jem, we have what are the acceptance rates for Canadian and international students? What I'll mention is that in Canada and internationally, we don't typically follow a kind of acceptance rate model. What I'll suggest is that if you're meeting our admissions requirements and would like to apply, then I would strongly encourage you to do so. We admit students on a rolling basis, which kind of means if you apply earlier, there's a higher chance that you will be accepted just based on spots available in the program. that might make a bit more sense for you. So let me get another question here. I have one question here about what are some good study spaces on campus, or like what's your favorite study spot on campus? I think I'm going to start this one with Ryan.
Sure. So I'm one of those people that like can't study in my room because if I want to study in my room, I'm gonna like want to sleep in my room. So I tend to like go onto campus a lot to study. We have a great like I would say like student lounge on campus called the Wardy, which is like open pretty much like kind of 24/7. So I tend to study there a lot. That's also like where I get to see all my friends a lot. So that's a great place. I also love the King's Library. In my opinion, it's the prettiest library in Halifax. So I like to go there the most. And then sometimes I lock myself in those random Dalhousie classrooms and set off alarms. But don't recommend. But that's what I do.
Thanks, Ryan. Happens a lot. Okay, so I have another question here in the chat from someone saying, do you have to apply for the HIP program? Chow, since you did HIP, do you want to answer this one?
Yeah, I'd love to. So you do have to apply for HIP. It's a very similar process to kind of applying for university. It's a form you have to fill out, and they don't actually have a very strict requirement for like grades or whatever, which is really nice. But yes, you will have to apply.
Yeah. Applications for HIP typically open in February. We don't really have a set date for that yet, but keep an eye out for some time around February. That's when I tend to see movement there. I have another question that says, what advice would you give for those planning to try out for FIP or apply to FIP? I honestly, you all did foundation year, but Michaela, since you're in foundation year now, I might get you to answer that one. And if one of you want to jump in and answer something towards the end, please do.
Yeah, I think it's all about just kind of working out your schedule and knowing kind of how to balance everything. That's a really good thing that you can do, just kind of prep. We do a lot of reading and like essays and stuff for the foundation year program. So just kind of having a good dynamic of how you work, spacing out your work properly, just so that you're able to like finish everything on time. That's what I would definitely give my best advice for.
Excellent. Anybody else have any advice for someone who might be thinking about starting foundation year and not really quite sure about it?
Honestly, what I loved about foundation year is it's just a year, and you're getting those like the general requirements for a first year that you'd need for like a first year poli-sci or sociology or history student. So you don't really have to like declare a major. So I feel like just kind of like don't like go in with any kind of like preconceived like ideas of what you love or what you don't love. I came here wanting to go to law school, not anymore. Like it's the part where like you don't know what you're gonna fall in love with, what you're not gonna fall in love with, but there's so much available. So honestly, just like um be prepared, just like go with the flow and have fun. Like it's just like a great year to just like have fun and learn about yourself. I grew a lot. And just get involved. There's a lot of really fun things offered through foundation year. There's like a night fit event sometimes. When there's a play, we have like a dramatic reading. Like the Wordy, which Ryan mentioned, they have events at night, so like karaoke, trivia, stuff like that. Um, Join clubs. I'm with the Dell Film Society. There's a lot of great things to explore and learn, and also don't feel intimidated because the great thing about FIP is that like everyone is doing the exact same thing. You're studying the exact same thing as what your neighbor, Ryan was my neighbor, we're studying
Yeah.
in the same position. So you're like, don't feel like the work is isolating you because it really just almost brings you closer with everyone. So it's, yeah.
I think to go on with that, like Sam and I, we were in the same foundation year program tutorial and we were neighbors
Mhm.
and we got really good at bantering with each other.
Mhm.
So I think part of it too is like just talk. Just
Yeah.
talk to each other, even if it like becomes like kind of an argument. Like, because at the end of the day, you are learning things, and it's I think every conversation that you're gonna have in general about FIP is going to be valuable to you.
Mhm. And also, like, what I really thought of was like, because it was even just like a year where, like, even because, like, I'm from out of province. I know Ryan's out of province. Anyone there where it's like, I didn't even know where I wanted to go. And this was just like a year to commit. It's really just like a year to grow. So it's like, don't be afraid to put yourself out there and make mistakes and grow. And that's really what foundation year gives you and like what you get out of it. Um, yeah.
Great
Uh,
answers, guys.
Also, it's the part where always remember that like it's even the days it feels daunting, it's set up for you to succeed, and there are a lot of resources to succeed. Everyone's very flexible, but no matter how intimidating it gets, it's nothing is given to you, whether it's like a reading or workload, anything that feels intimidating. Everything is created with the intention that you're going to succeed and thrive, and you're never being set up for failure. So don't let that intimidate you.
Nice.
Mhm.
It's a good answer, Sam.
Thank you.
Okay, one more question. I think this one's best answered by Chow, as someone who's currently not living on campus but is doing foundation year. How easy is it for those who stay home for university to connect with people in residence?
So this kind of varies, but it is absolutely a possibility that you can get to know a lot of people, and a lot of them do live on residence. So if you live really close to the school, your commute is probably not very bad, and then it's quite easy to just pop over on campus, maybe if you have a day off or in the afternoon. But if you live a bit further away, which I do, you can bus in and then you have classes usually in the morning, but there's definitely free time to spend on campus and socialize. Um, I think the best thing about FIP is the small groups classes that you have, like tutorials after FIP or after your lecture, where you have 15 people that you meet with every single time you have lecture, and you get to know these people really well. And they are some of them are also potentially from day students, but they also can be in residence. And I think that you can get to really know people in these small groups. And you can also get to know people in lecture. It is scary meeting new people and going to a new university, but I think one of the best things is also something that we have is orientation week. If you can get up the courage to just talk to people and see what people are like and say hi, you can definitely help make friends that way too.
One thing I might add, which also really helped me make a lot of friends at Dal, that's great to do, especially because, like Miranda mentioned earlier, because is there are like a million different clubs offered through Kings and Dal. Like there's, I promise you, at least like one club that matches your interests, and even you can like sample a bunch of different ones, and those are always great ways to find people. Um, yeah.
Yes. One of the big things that we are currently trying to work on as some day students at King's is reviving the Day Student Society, which is one of the clubs where all of the people who are day students are automatically part of this society. And we're going to try and host events and help day students feel more connected with the King's community.
Nice. That's exciting. Yeah. Okay. One that I think I'm going to get all of you to answer. What was the most unexpected or surprising thing about university? What was something that surprised you when you came to King's? This can kind of be anything.
I'll answer first. I think the first thing for me was that I really learned about my learning style. Like that was really something that I found really valuable. I totally thought that I was a really good writer in high school, that I took notes really well. But in the foundation year program, like doing the same thing every single day, I really learned like what actually worked for me a lot. And I've taken a lot of those skills and what I've learned into like my upper years now. So I've learned that I'm a better speaker than I am a writer. I need to go visit my professors all the time to like figure out some things. So things like that I think are things I didn't really expect initially, but yeah.
Um, Two things. One thing Ryan just inspired me for is also that foundation year gives you is you get those great relationships with your professors, but I can say going forward into upper years, you get that confidence to speak to professors in bigger classrooms and really put yourself out there, which is great. The one thing I learned the most was to not have like the thing that surprised me the most was kind of like everything, because I feel like I came in with like a lot of preconceived notions on like what I was going to study, what were my extracurriculars, who are my friends going to be. And needless to say, I think had a lot of like more humbling moments where different things than how I expected kind of played out. And I think that like once I really learned to embrace it, it was really rewarding. So I feel like the things that surprised me were really like the best ones, and how I made like my best friends and got my like best memories. So yeah, I think that for me, the biggest surprises were also like the best surprises. And I'm excited to see what you guys's are, regardless of where you go.
I can go next. I would say the biggest surprise for me was how much like help you have. I feel like I came in, especially into university in general, like, oh, like nobody's gonna help you as much, like feeling like almost like just a number, but like really in Kings it's such a like smaller community. So you have a lot of resources and people who help you. You can talk to your tutors, they want to talk to you and encourage you in your writing and your learning. And especially in the foundation year program, you have a writing coach. And so definitely like utilizing those resources to kind of engage with your writing and learning more about yourself and just growing as an individual, it's really helpful. So just like all the things that we have at Kings to help us and like including Dal as well. That was really surprising for me, but it was also a really good thing. And I'm just continuing to learn and grow from it too.
Yeah, and I'm gonna talk. One thing that surprised me was how you can really curate your university experience, because in a lot of the media that you've been presented, you have all of these assumptions. Like at university, you're expected to party or whatever. But I found at King's, you have a lot of flexibility. You can, especially if you are a day student that is a bit more limited in like timing and scheduling and stuff, you can choose a lot of how you want your university experience to go. You can focus a lot on your academics, and you can have that sort of like balance between the socializing and schoolwork that you can really help develop uh, part of being an adult.
Nice. Great
One,
questions.
one more thing I might add, which I think Ryan can back me up here, and Chow, Michaela, I think you guys are gonna get to see it next section, is you'll learn one thing that surprises you towards the end of foundation year is like you think back about like everything that like you've studied, and you're like, I know so much that like the average person like wouldn't know, like all these like random facts and stuff about like and because there's such like a wide array of content, like you get this really nice kind of like confidence at the end of like, oh my God, I am so smart. Um, mhm.
At least we hope, you know?
Yeah.
That's what you want from the program.
Hmm.
I'll encourage anybody who's in kind of like the webinar who has a question, please shoot them in the Q&A section at the bottom of your screen. I'm gonna put one thing in our chat. We have a feedback survey for this, so while the students are answering some questions, feel free to answer the questions in the survey there. There's also a door prize, so if you fill out, you might have a chance to win that. One other question that I feel it hasn't been asked yet today, but sometimes is one that gets asked by a lot of students is what is it like being a student athlete or being in athletics? What's it like being on a team in, being a Blue Devil? And Michaela's on our rugby team, so I'm going to ask you to answer this one.
I love being a like Kings athlete. I think it's the best, especially because of like the community that we have. Yeah, playing rugby has been really good. If you're gonna be a student athlete, it really again is all about balance, working out your schedules, especially when you get them in like the beginning of the year or the season, depending on what sport you play. I play rugby, and so rugby and soccer, they kind of take up the first like 2, 3 months of school, and then after that you're in a little bit more of an off season period. But if you're in something like basketball or volleyball, your year is a lot longer. I think it goes from like September to like February, sometimes March. So it's really kind of about working your schedule with all of your school and your other activities and like social events and stuff like that. But yeah, generally like being a Kings athlete is so exciting, and you have a lot of people and friends and people that you meet who want to like come and encourage you and like watch your games and stuff like that. So it's really fun. We have great coaches, great support staff, great ATs, people who help you if injuries happen, things like that. So it's amazing. I love it.
Yeah, excellent. And I think there's a follow-up just in the chat. Can you get a sports scholarship and apply for a different scholarship as well? I'll answer this one really briefly. There are specific sports scholarships, especially the Deborah Dean and Robert Little sport Scholarship for Varsity Athletes has a very long name, that students are eligible to apply for, and they're also still eligible for entrance awards as well. So I believe those ones stack. Um, and I'll see one other question here. Oh, we've got some questions coming in. Thank you guys. This is a really great question that I think all of you can answer in some capacity, just, briefly, but like give me an answer on this one. Aside from foundation year, what separates King's from other universities? What makes King's special aside from FIP?
Um, I can take this one.
Yeah.
I think for me, like what Miranda said during like the presentation, you get like a 2-for-1. You're both at King's and Dow. So I really like it because it's like a university within a university. Um, that's what I really like. I felt I was kind of scared. I was applying to like smaller schools when I was applying for university, and I was kind of scared, like, oh, I might be like sacrificing some of the resources that a bigger institution might give me, those kinds of things. But I know that smaller class sizes and those kinds of things are what suits me best. So I was kind of nervous about that, but um, with the Kings and Dalhousie partnership, I get the best of both worlds, and I didn't have to sacrifice anything in that kind of sense. So I felt that that was something really special that drew me to Kings. Obviously, the foundation year program is also something that was there. So yeah, just a lot of compounding great things.
Excellent. Anyone else have anything to add to that? I think King's is a special place, and we all know it.
Mhm. Um,
Sure. Okay. Um, Another question. What's Halifax like? Do students have the opportunity to go out into the city that much on weekends?
Definitely.
Hmm.
Um,
Sam,
yeah,
if you want to start this one and people can
for
add
sure.
in.
Yeah, there's a lot of like also like I think especially like as students, like a lot of like traditions. At like a lot of different like local businesses have like there's like a karaoke night that a lot of students go to. There's like a taco night that a lot of students go to where it's like 4.50 a taco that's really good. There's this place where there's like a really fun like jazz night. And it's kind of like it's funny because there's almost like a weekly tradition where like you'll see a lot of like students at Kings and Dow kind of have that like same routine. There's a lot of like different fun events going on. One of my favorite things that happened at the beginning of the semester was the Atlantic International Film Festival. Um, there's always a lot of fun stuff at the waterfront. I stayed here this summer and even just like getting to experience like what I call like waterfront culture, where there's a lot of like different like vendors and like artists, musicians, getting to like go out there like on the waterfront like before it got cold. My favorite thing to do during foundation year is to like walk down or take the bus because you get a bus pass as a student. I'd go down to the waterfront and I'd sit in one of the hammocks and I would read my books. And then when the sun would set and I'd finish reading, I'd go get a lobster roll and I'd walk home. So like a lot of like stuff like that. There's the Harbor Hopper. A lot of societies also will like exchange a lot of opportunities to go out into the city, and not just the city, but if you're in something like the Dal Outdoors Society, go on like hikes throughout Nova Scotia. I know the chapel also has stuff like that during Thanksgiving, as does Bill Leahy with the President's Hike. And Michaela, I'm sure you can speak to this too, but I know a lot of athletes get to explore a lot of Atlantic Canada going to other universities. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's definitely no shortage of stuff to do, and I can definitely say like coming from Toronto, that was like a big plus for me to like just like to go out and get that like fun escape, and there's definitely a lot of great opportunities.
Thanks, Sam.
Mhm.
Um, there's another question in our Q&A that I think I'll take the lead on answering. This is how many King students are from the Caribbean? Realistically, very few. Um, King's is international students numbers. We don't have very many international students. We tend to be primarily Canadian student-based institution. And the majority of our international students are from the US. However, I don't want that to be necessarily a like deciding factor for you. If you're from the Caribbean and choose to come to King's, there will be a community for you, not necessarily like there will be a community for you on King's campus, but there won't be very many Caribbean students also on King's campus. But across the city, whether that's at Dalhousie or other university institutions or within Halifax in general, there is certainly a Caribbean community for you to find that community with as well. And I believe there's also a Caribbean Student Society at Dalhousie. So there's definitely ways for you to find that community, maybe not necessarily primarily on King's campus, but across Halifax and with our partnership at Dalhousie as well. Next question. So, what are some of your favorite events or traditions on campus? Does anyone have one they want to shout out quickly?
Um, do you want to go, Chow, or are you okay if I
Yeah,
say?
Chow, you go first.
Yeah, so I'm a sucker for an occasion where I can get dressed up. And one of the fun King's events is matriculation, which is this nice formal ceremony we have towards the beginning of the year, where you take all of your first year students at King's and you have a nice formal meal where you sit down and you have in the dining hall, even if you're a day student, you get to go to this. And then afterwards, you go and sign the matricula, which is this massive book. And there have been a matricula for each or every first year class that goes to King signs one of these very, very big books. And it's kind of just saying that you are part of this institution and you are part of the King's family. I think that is a really fun tradition that we have.
I was just gonna add on to Chow, like this year for matriculation, I was in one of the groups where we had a guy, he played the bagpipes like outside and we all like got to sit in this circle together and then we started dancing to the bagpipe music and this went on for like a couple hours. Like it was just it felt like a movie. Like it was so cool. So those are like the kind of things that you wouldn't see in a lot of other places. But yeah.
Yeah. When I lived in residence, I loved hearing the bagpipes for matriculation because you always knew that the first years were having a really awesome day.
Mhm.
Yeah.
My
Okay. Yeah,
favorite
Sam, what's up?
my favorite memory was Big Night actually. It's like a tradition at King's. It happens at the end of the year. And it takes place in the dining hall. The service staff put together this really like fun event. There's like a live show, there's a magician, there's what else? There's bands, people can go up like open mic style, there's a photo booth, it's like kind of like um there's a bunch of different places to get food, like fried stuff. It's just like a big, like fun, warm place to go and be. And it's also kind of similar to formal meal, but like you'll have a lot of day students come in for it, faculty come in for it. It's a really like warm, welcoming event. And I really loved it. Yeah, that would definitely be my favorite.
Yeah. I'm going to take the next one. Someone's asking, how do I make my application stand out and raise my chance of acceptance? Um, for our applications to King's, we're primarily looking at academics. So, like 90% of the time, we're not asking for anything aside from your grade 12 transcript. At this time of year, we'll assess based on grade 11 marks and then look at the courses you're registered in for your grade 12 year as well. We don't usually have any sort of supplemental essay or anything along those lines, especially if you're an American student, if you're thinking about that. We don't use any sort of common application, those sort of essay questions. It's very rare we'd ask an undergraduate student for an essay component. If you're interested specifically in the Bachelor of Journalism honors, then we might ask if you want to submit a portfolio or submit kind of a letter of intent as to why you want to work in journalism. That might be something we ask you for. For Bachelor of Arts and Science, we won't ask you for any sort of essay to kind of bolster that. So raising your chance of acceptance is solely based on marks alone. If you're a homeschooled applicant, though, you might have to submit some kind of like writing samples. So we can get an idea of what you've been working on. But aside from that, if you're in typical high school schooling, we'll look at your grade 12 marks. And I'll answer the next one that I've seen. Are classes at Dalhousie required? I'll answer it briefly, and then we can kind of chat about everyone's experience and kind of, transversing between Kings and Dalhousie. The loose answer is technically no. Classes at Dalhousie aren't required. However, it's kind of impossible to finish a King's degree without taking at least one class at Dalhousie. So I've mentioned that our Bachelor of Journalism honors program is primarily on King's campus. Everything in journalism is taught at King's. But even those journalism students are required to take a Canadian content course, which typically happens on Dalhousie's campus. Sometimes you can find one at King's and kind of get lucky and stick on campus your whole time. But a lot of our students will take something at Dalhousie, whatever that might be. Yeah, Ryan, if you want to talk about your kind of experience, you're in second year, I believe, so kind of working from first year to second year, what that kind of transition was like in moving to Dal as well.
Well, I feel like there was like no transition because it kind of just flowed right in. Essentially, when in like during foundation year program, I got to register for my next year classes, and I knew I was going to do history. I've always been interested in history. I'm actually, unlike Sam, I decided I wanted to go to law school and stuck with it. So yeah, I kind of always knew that that was kind of be my gateway to law school. So I just looked at the registration, picked the classes that I liked, and that was kind of it. And I felt that there was like no real transition. It was kind of just like the only thing that I kind of struggled with was like, oh no, where are my classes? Because there's just way more like buildings to worry about. Um, so that was like probably like the only thing that kind of scared me. Outside of that, like I mean, I connected with a lot of my like fellow classmates pretty easily. I talked to my professors a lot. Those kinds of things are kind of easy for me. Um, and then yeah, I declared my major at the end of foundation year program as well. Again, I was pretty dead set on what I was going to do, so that was kind of easy for me as well. I know that some students tend to like declare after second year too. So it's kind of to each their own. Go whatever pace you works best for you, but that's what worked best for me, and I felt that it was very seamless. Yeah. I think the only thing that would have helped me a bit more is if I took like one or two like hours just to like walk around Dal and figure out how the life sciences center, for example, works. Because oh my gosh, that building can be confusing the first time you go in.
There are definitely some buildings that are like that, yeah. What's up, Sam?
I was gonna say, one thing I had a benefit from coming in this year was that I think a lot of people can have is like during your first year, you may go to a lot of different like events or clubs at Dal that are within a lot of the different classrooms, or like within the different buildings. So that does give you the opportunity to kind of like explore those places. So there is definitely a benefit there.
Yeah. A few other questions have come in the chat. If you've got more questions, feel free to drop them in the question and answer section as well. Does King provide bachelor's degrees? Yes. King's provides four different types of bachelor's degrees: in arts, science, music, and Bachelor of Journalism honors. And another question about how do we accept IB credits? This will depend on each of you individually. If you are in IB and are taking full diploma, we'll accept both theory of knowledge as a course, I believe at a C or higher. And we'll also accept HL level courses, so higher level courses. Unfortunately, standard level courses are not eligible for transfer credit, and we'll assess those credits and provide you more information on that once you've confirmed your offer to King's. Yeah. And one more question I see. If you're in foundation year, can you use your fifth credit to work towards the major you're planning to take? Absolutely, pending it doesn't have any sort of first year kind of requirement before you take that. Most of the time, courses that count towards your major are at the 2000 level or above. So sometimes you can't necessarily take those courses in first year, but a lot of our students will also take some of those general degree requirements in that first year to get that out of your way. If you're in science, that might look like a math kind of course. And if you're in arts, that might look like a language or a science requirement. And King's does also provide masters. We don't have a PhD program. We do have masters in creative nonfiction, fiction, journalism, and we have a one-year Bachelor of Journalism, which is a professional degree after a first program. We have another question that's what is the application process like for transferring international students? This is kind of a question that might be a bit more specific to your situation. This looks different across the board based on where you're located, what institution that might be. So I would suggest getting in contact with admissions at ukings.ca to kind of give you a better answer to that one. That might just get you a little bit more clarity. That might be a bit more specific to you. Okay. And I think we're kind of at the end of our questions. Does anyone have any more they'd like to submit before we head off here? I'll let it sit for a second. I'll also submit the survey link again in the chat. So if you would like to put yourself in the running to win a prize, I believe you can do so there. If I don't see any more questions come in, that might be good. One thing I feel we didn't really touch on is upper year housing. I'll mention foundation year students, first year students, they primarily live in residence. Students who might be from the Halifax region would be day students like Chow we have here. So day students who live off campus and commute into campus. Most of our students in upper years live off campus, just by nature of how many rooms we have on campus and kind of just trends in Canadian universities and in Halifax in general. Anybody here want to talk about what they found it like moving off campus in second year between Ryan and Sam?
I feel like Sam should take this one.
Yeah,
I
go
have
for
an
it, Sam.
situation.
I think what was really great is, and I think a lot of people at Kings can speak as there's a lot of really great housing resource supports offered on campus. Like just to find places. There's our sexual health and safety officer hosts like a workshop about finding landlords, understanding leases, and through the KSU, the King Student Union and Dallas Student Union, there's like monthly seminars on like landlord policies and like what's legal, what's not legal, and it is you're in an environment where there are a lot of places to that people are always renting. There's always a place to find, and one thing I'll also mention is because I have a lot of upper year friends who are on campus, is finding obviously because there's like guaranteed first year res, it does mean that there aren't as many numbers for upper year residences, but it is more common to find a spot in residence as a King student compared to a lot of my friends at Dal or other bigger universities for finding spots because we do have select buildings that are specifically for upper year students, but off campus as well, there's always places to go and a lot of resources. And you're also surrounded by a lot of upper year students who have experience and like can give you tips and advice or know landlords and or know people who are looking. So there's definitely a great environment to go to and look at, which is great.
Okay, excellent. I think that concludes our virtual open house for today. I'd like to thank you all for attending, and thanks to all of my student panelists who were able to be here. Really appreciate you coming out to learn more about Kings. If you have any more questions that weren't answered in this webinar or you'd like to get in touch with us in the future, you can go to ukings.ca to learn anything about the University of King's College or to start an application. You can also email us at admissions at ukings.ca. That's the best way to get in contact with our admissions team. And as always, please fill out the survey so we can know what we can do better for next time. Thank you all for attending. I really appreciate it and enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Bye now.